Morning.
ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्
Guru Paramparam.
ॐ सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु वीर्यं कर्मवहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya.
Shivaya.
So we are on the topic of Nididhyasanam, which is the final topic in Aparoksha Anubhuti. The rest of the verses are also covering that topic only. And we are on verse number 130, which we shall chant. So please unmute yourself. Ye hi vrittim jahetyanam
ये हि
Jayatyanam
Brahmakhyam pavanim param
ब्रह्माख्यां
Brahmakyam
पावनीं
Pavanim Param
पराम्
Vrithaiva te tu jivanti
वृद्धैव
Daiva
ते
Te
तुजीवन्ति
Tujivanti
Ashubhishcha samanaraha.
पशुभिः
Ashubhishta
समानराः।
Samanara.
So this verse is Jnana Stuti, showing that it is the thirst for the knowledge alone which distinguishes the animal and the human being. So it's in praise of the Brahman knowledge. And he says that's why I don't know, the South Indian languages, actually the word for animals is Jantu, the one who is born. But literally speaking, Jantu means the one who is born. It's just not animals. So Jantu is also human beings. Anybody who is born, anybody who has taken Janma is Jantu. But I remember, at least in Malayalam, when you want to show somebody that he's lower grade than you say Jantu. Means you are an animal. Actually, it means you are born. Okay, what is the difference? Both animals and human beings, both are mortals. The difference is that the human being who has discovered that I am Brahman, that I was never born, he is not a Jantu. A Jantu is a being which is born, and therefore animals and humans are both Jantus. But if you have discovered Aham Brahmasmi, then you are not a Jantu. So that is what he says here. Yehi yenam vrittim jahati. So yenam vrittim. Yenam vrittim, this thought. This thought is all the thoughts that we have been talking about in the last few verses, which is Nididhyasanam. What are those thoughts? What is the basic idea of Nididhyasanam? What thought should you maintain?
Aham Brahmasmi.
ब्रह्मास्मि
Aham Brahmasmi, a Brahma Akara Vritti, as it is called, the thought in the form of Brahman. Remember, it need not be Aham Brahmasmi. It can be Aham Purnaha, Aham Sarvavyapi, anything which is a descriptor of Brahman. That is the Brahma Akara Vritti. It's a Vritti Akara in the form of Brahman. So he calls this Yena Vritti, this particular Vritti. So Yehi Enam Vritti Jahati. So Jahati is a word which we have seen before in Bhagavad Gita, especially in second chapter. What does it mean?
Abandons or gives it up.
Abandon, gives it up, renounce. So Yehi Enam Vrittim Jahati. Those people who give up the Brahma Akara Vritti, he's talking about, right? And this, we can actually further refine it. People who have not taken to Brahma Akara Vritti, So there are two types of people. Some people who don't come to Vedanta at all. They are caught up in Maya. They don't have the time to inquire, who am I really? Right? So they have not come to the scriptures. So they have given up effectively because they don't even know that the vritti is there. So they have given it up. Then there is a second type of person who has come to scripture, who has done Shravanam, who has done Mananam, but who has not yet assimilated Aham Brahma Asmi Vritti. Now, what is the meaning of this assimilation? That is very, very important for us to understand. When I say that I know I am Brahman, that means I have Brahma Akara Vritti. But when I say that I have Nishtha in that Vritti, I have assimilated that Vritti, what is the difference?
Acharya ji, last time you explained that when I understand that I should not get angry and I don't get angry. So
Very
when I
good.
don't get angry, I am Jnana Nishtha.
Yeah. So that once the vritti has been assimilated, it has sunk into your subconscious mind. Like we always give the example of the pickle. Knowing that you are a Brahman, you have just dipped the lime into the pickle juice. But when you take it out, all the lime is not saturated. Only the top portion is saturated, superficially only. Only the mind at that superficial level is saturated. But if you leave that lime in the pickle sauce for maybe a week or 10 days, each and every cell in that lime gets saturated. And that is exactly what happens in Nididhyasana. Aham Brahmasmi Vritti is, so there are three stages. Shravanam, Shastram tells you that you are Brahman. Mananam, you have thought about it, you have discussed about it, and you have understood that you are Brahman. There are no more doubts. So the first one is what Shastram tells you. The second one is that you have accepted what Shastram tells you. So after Mananam, I know I am Brahman. But this is the lime which has just been dipped. What is the difference? Though I know that I am Brahman, all my responses are still basically from Deha Abhimana, from body identification. And once I have dipped myself long enough, which means I have done Nididhyasanam long enough, that is the dipping, because I'm again and again and again I am doing the meditation on Aham Brahma Asmi, Aham Purna Asmi, Aham Sarvavyapi, Aham Sarvagata, all that you do. Finally, every pore of your body, every cell of your body is soaked with that knowledge. Then what happens? Whatever reactions also come. The actions, the reactions. Actions are consciously generated activity. But there are reactions also, and most of the activity, most of the responses which we give to others are reactions. That reaction, when it is arising out of the jnanam which has been soaked, then assimilation is there, right? So this portion, yehi enam vritti jahati, refers to that second type of person, the person who has come to Vedanta, has understood that is Brahman, but has not yet assimilated. So he says that vritti he gives up because he's said to have given up. Why? Jahati here means he has not really understood, he has not assimilated fully. The vritti is only superficial intellectual knowledge for him. It is not the prime driver in his life. And that vritti is what vritti? Brahmakhyam vrittim. Akhyam is meaning named. Akhya means name. So Brahma Akhyam vritti, or you have to break it up and say Brahma vritti Akhyam. That particular thought is called Brahma vritti. And what is the thought? Brahma vritti is Param Pavinim, is the greatest purifier. And we saw this in Bhagavad Gita also, almost the same language. Do you remember? What is the wording? What are the wordings for chapter?
It's not 12.
Nahi jnanena sadrusham pavitram iha vidyate. Same idea is being repeated here. There is no purifier greater than the knowledge. Why is that so? Because punya karmas are also purifiers, right? What is the difference between punya karma, which also purifies human beings, and jnanam, which also purifies human beings? Why do we say jnanam is the greatest purifier? Because punya karmas will destroy the opposite, will destroy only the papam. But remember that when punyam destroys papam, punyam is still there. And punyam means what in terms of our future lives?
Swarga.
Ego.
Punyam means you may go to Swarga, you have to come back because you have to
Reborn.
experience the punyam. So rebirth is there. Punarapi jananam is there. And therefore, not only is papam impurity, Shastra says punyam also is impurity. You have to remove the punyam also, right? Of course, you can always say, oh, to remove this punyam, I will do some papam, you know. But then what will happen? To remove that papam, you have to do more punyam. So enter into a cycle. How do we get rid of papam and punyam both together? What is the cause of papam and punyam? You have to see. Ahankara alone. So, you think you are apurnaha, not complete. And therefore you think I should acquire something or I should get rid of something to make me happy. And therefore you do karma, and therefore punyam papam follows, and therefore rebirth follows. What is the cause of that basic thought that, I am apurnaha? It is lack of atmajnanam. You don't know that you are purnaha. And therefore, ajnanam is to attack that root cause. Knowing that I am purnam will leave me free of any karma, will leave me free of punyam and papam. That is why it says Brahma Akara Vritti is the greatest purifier because it removes the ultimate deepest impurity, which is ajnanam. There are many other purifiers in our scriptures. You have Namajapa, Ganga Snana, so many things are there. You have so many rituals you can do. They are all purifiers, but they are all inferior because they can remove papam, but they cannot remove punyam, they cannot remove ajnanam. So any purifier accepting jnanam cannot remove ajnanam and papam. Right. And therefore, if you don't get this particular Atmajnanam, or after getting it, you don't assimilate it, then this verse says, Vrithaiva tute jivanti. He has lived his life in vain. He may have done Shravanam and Mananam, but he has not done Nididhyasanam. His life has become in vain because there is no prayojanam, there is no purpose in his life. Life becomes purposeful only when I understand that it is not me who is living, it is the body which is living. When I get spiritual knowledge, when I know that I am Atman, unborn, with no birth and no death, then only life becomes meaningful. Otherwise, what? Naraha, these other people, Pashubhischa Samaha. Those who don't gain the knowledge, Pashubhischa Samaha. They are equivalent to animals. And what are the common things we have seen before? Food, security, reproduction, all these are common to animals and human beings. The only difference otherwise is that animal does instinctive action while human being does intellectual action. But it is only the human being who can decide to go from apurnatvam to purnatvam. The animal cannot do that. Okay. Now we look at verse number 131. Please unmute yourself. We'll chant. Ye hi vrittim vijananti.
ये
ये
हि
हि
वृत्तिं
वृत्तिं विजानन्ति
जानन्ति
ज्ञात्वापि वर्धयन्ति ये
ज्ञात्वापि वर्धयन्ति ये
ते वै सत्पुरुषा धन्या
ते वै
सत्पुरुषाधन्या
वन्ध्यास्ते भुवनत्रये
वन्द्यास्ते भुवनत्रये
So, before moving further, I'll point out that the word vritti can mean thought, but because of the context of the last verse, throughout this next few verses, throughout the section actually, you should take word vritti as atmajnanam or as jnanam. Why is the meaning taken? Because jnanam needs vritti. For that matter, not just atmajnanam. Any jnanam, any knowledge needs a thought. There is no difference in that idea that knowledge arises out of thought only. Whether it is atmajnanam or materialistic jnanam, knowledge comes only from thoughts. Thoughts need the mind, right? Why am I saying this? Because the many shastrams, they talk about the idea that material knowledge needs a mind, but spiritual knowledge does not need a mind. Spiritual knowledge comes in a state of thoughtlessness, which is what Yoga Shastra says. In Samadhi, suddenly I will understand that I am Brahman. Nobody can understand anything in Samadhi because your mind is resolved. Samadhi is a state of extreme concentration, but it needs a thought, right? So, because of this misconception, many people, many teachers, in fact, when they talk about meditation, where everybody's thought of meditation, right, as a means of liberation. So, they talk about transcending the mind and eliminating thought, and then Atmajnanam will come. What is their logic? That Brahman is self-eliminating. And therefore, when your mind is quiet, Brahman will suddenly appear before you and bless you and say, here I am Brahman. You will get knowledge without effort. This is a misconception, right? The only difference is between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge is the instruments required. What are the instruments required for material knowledge?
Hello, Ravi ji, may I try?
Please, Nataraji.
Sense organs of perception and our logical inferences.
Absolutely. Pratyaksham and inferences, anumanam, upamanam, comparisons. So pratyaksham, anumanam, upamanam. Your sense organ perception, your inferences, and your comparisons. These are the tools required for material knowledge. The difference in spiritual knowledge is that you require shastram, and you require shastram to be taught by a teacher who is understood. Remember that in both types of knowledge, the mind receives sound. The vrittis are there. When the mind, when the ears receive the sound, or the sense organs receive the form, or the touch, or whatever, sabda, sparsha, whatever, whichever sense organ you are using, that input of that sense organ is transmitted to the mind. Vritti is going to be there. If you are studying, let us say, sulfuric acid, your sense organs are perceiving, mind is analyzing, you are going to get, your mind is going to generate sulfuric acid vritti, right? When you are studying Shastram, words are there, right? Teacher is saying something, those words are falling on your ears. Teacher is saying what? He's talking about Brahman. And therefore, similar, just as the sulfuric acid vritti is generated while you are studying sulfuric acid, when you are studying Brahman, when you are listening to Brahma knowledge from the teacher, Aham Brahmasmi vritti is generated. So he says, Yehi vrittim vijananti. Those people who have got this vrittim. This is what? This is Shravan. And because it is in Shravanam that you will learn that you are Brahman. Right? This vritti here means Atmajnanam. So I am Brahman, or you are Brahman. Tattvamasi. That is what the teacher says. So yehi vrittim vijananti. Ye, those people who have got this vritti, who have gained this vritti through Shravanam, and you have to supply. Shravanam means through Guru Shastra Upadesha. Now, what is the problem? The vritti gained in Shravanam is like lighting a hurricane lamp, right? But you have not put the glass on it. The covering you have not put. So if you go out in the hurricane with that, without the covering on, there are high chances that the flame will not survive. For that flame to be permanent, you have to put the covering. So it has to become strong. Once it is put, the covering is put, then the flame is protected. The other example is when you light a small fire. First, the flame is very tiny, and then you blow on it and you improve the flame, then it catches fire. Once it is raging, then it will not go out. So this is what is being mentioned here, that this teacher, what is his job? Tattvamasi is only the lighting of the lamp. Right? The first matchstick, the teacher lights for you. And that aham brahmasmi vritti which initially comes, it is a feeble vritti because it is fighting against deha abhimanam. I am deha, I am mind, I am this, I am that, I am father, I am husband, I am daughter. These vrittis are soaking you up. In the middle of all that, there is a very feeble aham brahmasmi vritti which the teacher has conveyed. What is your job? Your job is to protect that flame. The protection of the flame is in the form of all the gunas, all the sadhana chatushta sampatti, all the viveka, all the vairagyam. All these we have to keep on reminding ourselves all the time. Everything other than Atma is mithya, vairagyam should be there, dhamma, sama, everything should be kept alive. Then only the flame can be protected. And once you protect the flame, gyatva api vardhayanti. That flame, small little flame, turns into a very strong fire. That process is called mananam and later followed by nididhyasanam. What is the difference? Your doubts, the rational questions raised by your mind are handled by mananam. The emotional problems which will still remain after gaining aham brahmasmi vritti, all the habitual thinking patterns, they have to be handled by nididhyasanam. And for this, one has to have an appropriate lifestyle. That appropriate lifestyle is called Jnana Nishtha lifestyle. And such people, Thevai Satpurusha. They are called Satpurushas because they are dedicated to the study of Brahman as themselves. And not only that, then some glorification follows. Dhanya. Such people are blessed. And Te Vandhya. So Vandhya here has to be broken up carefully. Vandaniya. Vandaniya means worthy of being worshipped. So Te Vandaniya, they are worthy of being worshipped. Bhuvanatraye, in all the three worlds, all the three lokas, such people should be worshipped because they are indeed great people. Okay. Now we look at verse number 132. We chant. Yesham vritti samavriddha
येषां समावृत्ता
paripakva cha sa punah
परिपक्वा च सा पुनः
devai sat brahmatam prapta
देवै सत्तां प्राप्ता
etare shabdavadinah.
नेतरेषत्वादिनः
Okay. So, Esham Vrittihi, the Aham Brahmasmi Vritti, you have to add in those people who have led a conducive lifestyle. What happens to that? Sama becomes steady, undisturbed, non-fluctuating, right? And this we all know, right? Because when you are in Vedanta class, you know you are Brahman. But after stepping out of the class, between this Sunday and next Sunday, how many times do you remember? How many times do you revert back to samsari? So that is what is being talked about. When throughout the week you are able to recall that, yes, I am Brahman, then samaha, that vritti has become consistent, has become steady, undisturbed, and vriddha, it is mature and strong. That your idea that I am Brahman, your conviction that I am Brahman, will never be disturbed by any unfavorable situation in your life, which is what is required. Right? Otherwise, the vritti is no good to you. And therefore, he says, you have to add here that vritti, paripakva cha sapurnaha, has become ripened. Paripakva has become ripe, has been assimilated, and unfavorable events in your life will not shake that knowledge. The knowledge is spontaneous. There will never be any struggle to remember that I am Brahman. And remember that this ripening pakwa, the fruit ripens not overnight. The fruit ripens with time. And that is in that ripening here, pakwa indicates that consistent study over a sufficient period of time is required. Consistent nididhyasanam over some time is required. And then te vai sat brahmatam praptaha. They, such people who have got the vritti, who have consistently kept the vritti alive through an appropriate lifestyle, they, why, only those people, sat brahmatam praptaha, can be said to have attained Brahman, have said to have become Brahman, acquired Brahman. This becoming Brahman, remember, is in the form of assimilation of the knowledge that I am Brahman. There is no other becoming, accepting the knowledge that I am Brahman. And na means if that assimilation does not take place, itare shabdavadinaha, the people for itare, the others, for whom this assimilation has not taken place, shabdavadinaha, they are people who only are, playing with the words. They may be academics. They may have written important books. They may have sold lots of books. They may be giving lectures on the Brahma Vidya. But if the knowledge has not brought transformation in their life, then they are only people who play with words. So until one gets Purnatvam, until one understands that I am Brahman, any amount of study is anatma only. You may achieve success by, writing great books. But if you have not assimilated the fact that I am Brahman, that study has been a waste for you. Okay. Verse number 133, we will chant. Kushala Brahmavartayam Vrittihina Suraginaha
वृत्तिहीनासुरागिणः
Epya Jnanataya Nunam Punarayanti yanti cha
पुनरायान्ति
Punarayanti yanti cha
पुनरायान्ति यान्ति च
So Kushala Brahma Vartayam, those people who are always talking about Brahman all the time, if Vrittihinaha, Hinam means without. Vritti is Brahma Akara Vritti, Aham Brahmasmi. So people who talk about Brahman all the time, Vrittihinaha, if they have not assimilated that they are Brahman, what are they? Suragana. Suraganaha, full of raga or dvesha for that matter. Now, how do I know whether I am a Suraganaha? How do I know whether I have assimilated Vedanta? You have to remember all the portions in the Bhagavad Gita. For example, there is a portion in chapter 2 talking about Sita Prajna. Sita Prajna, what is the way he behaves. Then there is a portion in Bhagavad Gita talking about Gunatitaha, chapter 14. All these you have to recall. That is what the descriptions are given. Right? So I can measure my progress. So that's what he says here. Suraginaha, they are full of raga and dvesha. And if they are still full of raga and dvesha, te api ajnanataya. Such people are also ajnanis only. You can supply her, even though they know the Shastra, forward and backward. They can quote every Upanishad. They can quote Shankara Bhashyam. But assimilation has not taken place. They api ajnanataya. They are also ajnanis only. And what is their fate going to be? Noonam, definitely. Punaha, again and again. Ayanti yanti cha. They will come and they will go. They have punarjanma again and again and again. There is no moksha unless you have assimilated. So verse number 134, we chant. Nimeshardham natishtanti.
निमेषार्धं तिष्ठन्ति
Vrittim brahmamayim vina.
Vritim
ब्रह्ममयीं विना
Yatha tishtanti brahmadyaha.
यथा
yatha
तिष्ठन्ति
तिष्ठन्ति ब्रह्माद्याः
Sanakadhyashukadayah.
सनकाद्याशुकादयः
So now Shankara says, don't get discouraged. There are people who have really understood. And such people, what has been the way they have understood? Nimesh ardham na tishtanti. Na tishtanti ardha nimeshaha. Even for half a moment, they don't remain. How? Brahmamayim vrittim vina. Without the Brahmakara vritti. Throughout their life, after getting the knowledge, they have consistently remembered that Aham Brahmasmi. They are remaining in the Brahma Jnanam all the time. Therefore, they have become Jnananishthas. And some examples he gives. Yatha tishtanti brahmadyaha. So here Brahman is not Brahman, it is Brahmaji, Hiranyagarbha. So he says Yatha tishtanti Hiranyagarbha is an example because he is Jnananishtha. So he gives examples among all the beings. So this is among the gods. Among the gods, Lord Brahmaji is Jnananishtha. Sanakadyaha. So another example, Sanaka. Sanaka is a Devarishi. So among all the Devarishis, Sanaka is example. Shukadayaha. Among human beings, Shuka. Shuka is, incidentally, the son of Vyasacharya. He also is a Jnananishtha. So the definition of Jnananishtha is what? A person who consistently, effortlessly, whenever needed, he is able to recall that he is Brahman. Once the Jnana Nishtha is complete, you don't need to constantly say, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahmasmi, I am Brahmasmi, I am Brahmasmi. That is not needed. What is the example? If I ask you your name, all of us are Namanishthas. I don't need to be reminding myself that my name is Ravi all the time. But whenever required, that name comes up. This is Jnananishta. That is what is important. That I first drive that knowledge into my subconscious using Nididhyasanam sufficiently. After that, I am established in that knowledge. Whenever I required, it appears. So, verse number 135. Now, these next four verses are very important verses because the entire the entire topic of meditation has been summed up over here. So, verse 135. Karye karanatayata
कार्ये कारणतः
कारणेन हि कार्यता
कारणेन कार्यता
कारणत्वं ततो गच्छे
कारणत्वं ततो गच्छेत्
कार्याभावे विचारतः
कार्याभावे विचारतः
So how is Brahman revealed by Vedantic statements? Let's take the example of a clay pot. I have a pot in my hand and you are sitting in front of me and I want to reveal to you that essentially the clay is the essence of the pot. So what is the first step? You and I both see a pot, right? The first step is when I say pot is there. I can't tell you straight away there is no pot. And you will wonder what sort of teacher I am, right? Because you are seeing the pot in front of you. So first step is yes, there is a pot. Then I will tell you, okay, now there is a karanam for that pot, which is called clay. And from that clay alone, the pot is born. From that clay alone, the pot is sustained. And when the pot gets destroyed, it gets resolved into the clay. So the second part of this teaching is that I introduce clay as the karanam. So first is the karyam, the pot. Then I introduce the karanam. Right. Then I tell you that, okay, from this clay, the pot is born. As long as the pot is there, the clay is there. And when the pot gets destroyed, what does it become? It becomes clay. And once you understand that, then I say this clay is the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya Karanam for the pot. Therefore, let us inquire what is the pot. So what has happened? From the pot in front of me, I'm asking what is the substance called the pot? And when I ask that question, I realize that there is only clay as the substance. For the word clay, there is a substance. But for the word pot, there is no substance. Thereby, I have reduced the pot into a nominal existence. Right? In Hindi, we say naam ke vaste. The word pot is naam ke vaste sapna. Existence for the purpose of a name alone. Verbal existence. And since it has only Namarupa existence, it is non-existent. So the first two stages of accepting the pot, introducing the pot and the clay, Adhyaropa. Third stage is reducing the pot to Namarupa. That is called Apavada. Adhyaropa, Apavada. Now comes another stage. Once the pot is negated, what has happened? We have said that pot is Namarupa, there is no pot. So we say there is no pot, which means we are saying there is no product, there is no karyam, right? When there is no karyam, we have to go back to our original statement where we said the clay is the karanam, the cause. But the karanam karyam is there's a relationship. When the karyam is gone, the relationship is broken, and therefore there is no more karan. So when karyam is negated, the sambandha is lost because duality has gone. And wherever duality is not there, how has duality gone? Because the pot is not different from the clay. And therefore, once duality has gone, you cannot introduce any sambandha at all. You cannot introduce any relationship at all. When you say son, it presupposes father. When you say karanam, it presupposes karyam. Therefore, what is left is the clay which is neither the karanam nor the karyam. So we call it karana, karya, vilakshana, clay. Right? Now you transpose that whole thing into Brahman. Anatma is introduced in the first stage, the universe. Then we say Brahman is Karanam. Anatma is Karyam. Brahman is Karanam. Then we say, oh, but there is no Jagat apart from Brahman. Therefore, Jagat is reduced to Nama Rupa. Once Jagat is reduced to Nama Rupa, we say Jagat is Mithya. Once Jagat is Mithya, the Karyam status is gone, and therefore Brahman has no Karan status. Therefore, that Brahman becomes Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, Brahman. And the last state, that Karya, Karana, Vilakshana, Brahman, that I am. That Karya, Vilakshana, Brahman, Aham Asmi. So these 5 stages, this is the stage of Vedantic meditation. Right? Now, and this is what Shankara mentions in these few verses. So he says, Karye, in this karyam, in this product, karanata ayataha. The karanam has come. In the karyam, the karanam has come. So, to use the pot clay example, in the pot, the clay has come, or the clay is inherent, which means this pot cannot exist without the clay, because the clay is the very upadana karam. And then he says, karane nahi karyata. But the clay can exist without the pot. So pot exists depending upon the clay, but clay does not depend upon the pot for existence. Therefore, the pot is negated. Pot is mithya. So he says, vicharataha, on inquiry, karya abhave. You will find that there is no karyam at all. Karya abhave. Abhava means not existing at all. And therefore, pot is only a name for the clay in a particular form which has a particular use. And then he says, tato. Tato means what? Karya abhave. When the pot is negated, when the karyam is negated, karanatvam gachet. You will find that the karanam status for the clay has also vanished. So when Jagat is understood as mithya, Brahman loses the status of being Karana. Now verse number 136. Ata shuddham bhaved vastu
अथ
शुद्धं भवेद्वस्तु
Vastu
yadvai vachama gocharam
यद्वै वाचामगोचरम्
tavyam mridghatenaiva
द्रष्टव्यं मृद्घटेनैव
drishtantena punah punah.
दृष्टान्तेन पुनः
Atha. So atha is a very, pregnant word in Shastram. Here Atha means thereafter. Whereafter? After doing all those things, after going through Adhyaropa and Apavada, what will happen? Shuddham bhavet vastu. That vastu, that Brahman, will be Shuddham. Shuddham means free of the Karanam status, free of the Karyam status. Karana, Karya, Vilakshana Brahman will be there. The absolute Brahman, pure consciousness will be there. And here remember that when I say Nirguna Brahman, the very use of the word Nirgunam becomes meaningful only if the concept of Sagunam is there. Right? When I say infinite, I use the word because there is a comparative concept finite. When I say Chetanam, conscious, I say that because there is a comparative inert object, Jadavastu also. When I say Brahman is big, that big is meaningful only when there is something small to compare it to. But he says, Yadvai Vacham Agochara. Brahman is beyond the scope of words. That is why it's also called silence sometimes. We say in between two ohms there is a silence. That is Brahman. So even the word silence, of course, when you use, when I say there is silence, remember that I have a concept of sound. Right? And that is why he says Shuddham Bhavet. This reality is free from all attributes. You can't say silent, you can't say full of sound, you can't say big, you can't say small. It's free from all attributes. Right? So you take an example, if you want to understand, and then extend that to the entire creation. So he says, Drishtantena puna puna drashtavyam. You have to understand this teaching only with the help of examples, and that also punah punah drashtavyam. Again and again and again, you have to take examples to understand this. So without anatma, the understanding of atma is impossible. Atma is not accessible to your intellect at all. Atma is accessible, and that is why all Shastram spends a lot of time on anatma analysis, not because it is important by itself. To understand the world, you don't need Shastram. You have got science. But then why does Shastram deal with anatma, the world? Because it is only through anatma that I can understand atma. So you give an example, mrid ghate naiva, pot and clay. One example, you can extend gold, gold ornament, chair wood, any example you take. Why do you take the example? Because ultimately you have to know that the attributes have to be completely dropped. So, what are the stages? Introduce Jagat as Karyam, introduce Brahman as Karanam. These two stages are Adhyaropa, superimposition. Then Apavada is what? Negation. Negate Jagat as Karyam, Brahman loses Karanam status. Therefore, and the last stage is this Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahman, I am. This has to be clearly kept in mind. This is my Vedantic meditation. Okay. Then, verse number 137. Anenaiva prakarena
अनेनैव
अनेनैव प्रकारेण
vritti brahmatmika bhavet.
वृत्तिब्रह्मात्मिका भवेत्
Udeti shuddha chittanam
उदेति
इति
शुद्धचित्तानाम्
vritti jnanam tatah param.
वृत्तिज्ञानं
वृत्तिज्ञानं
परम्
परम्
So again he says, what is an important condition? Shuddha chittanam. For those people who have a shuddha chitta, who have a qualified, refined mind, got through karma yoga, upasana yoga, sadhana chatushtayam, all that we have studied, we can put here. We have got the gunas, of the 17th chapter. For such people who are Shuddha Chittanams, Vrittihi Brahmatmika Bhavet. The Brahma Vritti will happen. Will happen means will take place. They will understand that they are Brahman. They will assimilate Aham Brahma Asmi. So in and through all the transactions in every part of their life, they will never lose sight of that Aham Brahmasmi idea. And Anenaiva Prakarena. In this manner alone, which manner? You have to remember the Atha of the previous verse. Using the Adhyaropa Apavada Prakriya, using it in Niti Dhyasanam. That is called Anenaiva Prakarena. In this manner alone. Vritti Jnanam Udeti, Brahma Vritti is generated. And because of the generation, Tataha Param, Brahman is revealed. Very short verse, very clear. It is only through Nididhyasanam, using the Prakriya which we have learned, which is introducing the world, negating the Karyam status, negating Karanam status, and claiming that I am Brahman. Only through that, this Brahma Vritti is generated. And if Brahma Vritti is generated, Tata Param, Brahman is revealed means I know I am Brahman. Now verse number 138. Karanam Vyatirekena
Karanam
Vyatirekena
Vyatirekena
Umanado Vilokaye
Umanadau Vilokayet
Anvayena Punastadhi
Anvayena
Karyam Nityam Prapasyati.
Karyam Prapashyati.
So again, one more repetition. Like this technique Krishna also uses. Say something, keep telling, keep telling, keep telling. Like when you want to make somebody understand, first you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, then you told them what you told them. So that is the same technique followed here. The basic method is being talked about. And here he defines a prakriya. Anvaya Vyatireka Prakriya, which we're all familiar with. What is Vyatireka over here? Puman Karanam Adau Vilokayet. So Puman, the person, the analyst, the person who is seeking or who is analyzing the scripture, what should you do? Adau Karanam Vilokayet. Adau means first. Karanam Vilokayet. He should see the Karan, the clay. He should see first. Why should he see the clay first? Adau will mean first seen. First seen means as clay only without the pot, so that he can understand that clay can exist without being pot. Without having pot form or jug form, clay can exist. This is Vyatireka part. What is Anvaya part? Tadhi Anvayena Karye Nityam Prapashyati. Tadhi, then, look at the same clay, Karye Nityam Prapashyati, as being present in the Karyam, as being present in the pot. So first you look at the clay without the pot, then you look at the same clay as inherent in the pot. See that clay is present in and through all products of clay. With this logic, what do you remember? What do you discover? Clay is permanent, independent. Pots are name and form only. Then you extend this to consciousness. Consciousness is present in all three states: Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Avastha. Consciousness is there in every single state, right? And therefore, consciousness is present in all perceptions and experiences, because you cannot have any experience at all without consciousness. In Sushupti also you don't, because in Sushupti you don't have any experience. But still consciousness is present. Because when you get up, you can say, I slept well. You would not be able to remember that if consciousness was not there. Therefore, using the same logic, you say consciousness is present and therefore independently existent. The Anvaya Vatiraka logic is presented here. Then, verse number 139. Karye hi karanam pasyet.
कार्ये हि
Karanam
कारणं पश्येत्
Paschat karyam visarjayet.
पश्चात् कार्यं
Karyam
विसर्जयेत्
Visarjayet
Karanatvam tato nasyet.
कारणत्वं ततो
Karanatvam
नश्येत्
Nashye
Avashishtham bhuven munihi.
अवशिष्टं भवेन् मुनिः
Avashishtam
So, and there are 4 stages we can talk about. The first one, of course, is not mentioned in the verse. So, first it is say karyam pasit. I have to first see the product. So, karyam pasit, first see the product, and then karye hi karanam pasit. That is the first quarter. See the karanam in and through the karyam. First see the karyam, then see the karanam as the pervading principle in and through the karyam. And the third step is paschat karyam visarjayet. Then negate the karyam as mithya, because there is no karyam apart from the karanam. Because the karanam is the all-pervading entity, pervading the karyam. Therefore, there is no pot other than clay. There are no ornaments other than gold. There is no jagat other than consciousness principle alone. Having done that, then the fourth step is tato karanatvam nashyet. Once you have negated the karyam as mithya, karyam is gone, karanam loses its karanam status. What is left is the karya, karana, vilakshana, Brahman, which is I. As a cause of things, I lose my observer status. When the observed world is negated as mithya, I lose my observer status. What is left is observer, observed, vilakshana, consciousness, which I am. And then I say, okay, I assert that this consciousness I am the essence of this universe. The whole universe is born in me, is sustained by my blessings alone. And at Pralayam, the whole universe resolves into me alone. Your view of yourself has changed. Once upon a time, you said, I am a miserable piece of dust compared to this huge cosmos. Right? So that is a problem with religion. Religion part, the Dharma Shastra part, the Purva Veda part, always makes you finite. When you come to Jnanam, you are made to realize that there is no finitude at all, that you are only infinite, you are Purnaha. So once this is done, what happens? Avashishtam, the one who is left behind, as what? As pure consciousness. Bhavet Munihi. He is called a Muni. He is a Jivan Mukta. Okay, with this, the Nididhyasanam portion is over. The next 3 verses or so are the fruits of Nididhyasanam, which we'll do in the next class. Any questions? Okay.
Acharya
Oh, yes, Krish, bolo.
Acharya so gunas, the changes of mind, up and down, everything is Brahman alone.
Everything is Brahman alone.
Thank you, Acharya.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your
Namah
patience.
Shivaya.
Thank you, Acharya ji, very much.